Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is all about writing a birth plan. So the reason I thought I'd do this is because I am almost 36 weeks pregnant as I film this, and so I am literally just writing my birth plan. I've actually got to give it to my midwife in a couple of days, and so it's really fresh in my mind. So I thought it would be quite useful just to do a little video about writing a birth plan, because it's one of those things that if you've never had a baby or you're pregnant for the first time, you might have heard mentioned, or you might have sort of like discussed it but not really gone into detail about what is involved in a birth plan and kind of what you can put in your birth plan and how that is then kind of used when you're actually in labour. Just as a disclaimer, I am not in any way medically or health trained. I'm not giving you advice. This is just some helpful information because I'm doing this myself and I have had a baby previously, so I have been through the process, and so I do know kind of what can happen and what often kind of doesn't always go according to plan. And so I thought it was just a useful video to do for anyone out there that's kind of having a look for videos about this. So I'll just basically show you first what a birth plan typically looks like. If you're in the UK, certainly in England, you will be given a folder from your midwife at your booking appointment. The folder looks like this, and it's basically all the information that you need about having a baby. It's got loads of pregnancy information. You get leaflets, you get breastfeeding information, all sorts of things, options about what you want from your scans as well when you get your anomaly scans and all those kind of things. It's loads of information, and inside it you'll have a big book. This is just the one that my hospital provides. It's actually quite a nice blue one. My last hospital, it didn't come in a nice folder like this. It was just a green like card folder. And inside this book is basically all of the information that will be recorded about you throughout your pregnancy, and you're supposed to keep this with you. I think it's from 20 weeks onwards, everywhere you go. I haven't been doing that. It's quite big. So yeah, this is the folder that you get given, and in the folder there's a whole section called your personalised care plan, and that is basically where you are asked to write your birth plan. I believe you can just give it in on a piece of paper if you prefer. You don't have to use that, but I think the idea is that because this folder goes everywhere with you, and when you're actually in labour, this is what all of the doctors and nurses or whoever is taking care of you will be reverting to for all of your information about your pregnancy. That's got your blood type in, it's got all of that kind of stuff in there. It makes sense to have it in that folder because that's the easiest place for them to find the information. So basically I'm just going to go through kind of point by point all of the things that are kind of important to consider when you're writing a birth plan. If you want to, you can keep your birth plan as simple or as detailed as you want. Around the 35-36 week mark is when you'll be asked to give in your birth plan, because they want to know if you do have any specific preferences or if you've got any concerns, and then they'll go through the birth plan with you and ask you about what's in it, and then if you've got any questions or you need any advice, then you can talk to them. Even if you're having a home birth, I think you still have to do a birth plan because something could go wrong and you could end up having to still go to hospital, and then they still want to know if you've got any things that you specifically want to happen. And it's also about anything that you are very strongly against happening, if you do have any strong feelings about certain things. So yeah, I'm just going to go through each of the things. There are so many websites where you can get actual proper health advice and medical advice about writing a birth plan. The Bounty website, which is just bounty.com, is really good. That's the Bounty are basically the people that do the newborn photo shoots, certainly here in England. They come around the hospitals and do all the photo shoots, and their website's really good. They have all sorts of information about how to look after a baby, feeding, pregnancy, just everything is on there. The NHS also has a whole section around writing a birth plan. So does the NCT website, and there'll be loads of others as well. So you can get a lot more detailed information and some actual advice just by going online. But I'll just kind of go through certainly what I've put down as bullet points in terms of what I want to include in my birth plan, or from last time round, things I remember either writing in my birth plan or that were suggested to me as things I should or could put in my birth plan. And the first thing is choosing a birthing partner. So whether it be your husband or your partner or your next of kin or a mother or family, close family friend, whoever you've decided to have as your birthing partner, to share your birth plan with them, because they will be the one that will kind of act as your advocate when you're actually in labour, because you're not really going to be in the mindset to be able to speak for yourself. So to get them up to speed with what you want and make sure that they understand your birth plan. So the first thing is the type of birth that you want to have. So this basically means whether you want to give birth in a labour ward surrounded by doctors and nurses in the kind of traditional setup, or whether you would like to try a water birth where you, if they have one in your hospital, you can give birth in the birthing centre. This will only be an option for you normally if you're considered a low risk during pregnancy. So for example, I'm not, because I've previously had an emergency cesarean. I'm automatically classed as a higher risk, and so I don't have the option of using a birthing centre. However, some hospitals, which mine does, have pools available in the labour ward which you can use for pain relief. So whilst you're not able to actually give birth in the water, you can use the water during labour if you want to. It'll be first come, first serve if there's a pool available, basically. Then there's the home birth. You know, if you're choosing to have your baby at home, it's slightly different. Obviously, you're not going to be planning to go to hospital, but you might still have to go to hospital if something went wrong during the process. So the next thing is pain relief. So this is basically where you can specify what sort of pain relief you want to have, whether you're happy to have an epidural or if you feel very strongly against having an epidural. Whether you would like to have pethidine, which is another type of pain relief where you're not numbed or anything, but it's quite a strong pain relief that they can give you. Whether you want to use gas and air, the Entonox, which is basically where you're just breathing through the gas and air. Whether you want to use a TENS machine, which you can hire or buy before you go into hospital to take with you. And then things like hypnobirthing, if that's something that you're wanting to do or you've been looking into. And then natural breathing techniques, basically anything in terms of what you could do to help ease the pain during the process. The next thing would be positions. So basically, if you have any preference around what sort of position you want to be in when you give birth, some people are not bothered because at the time you often just end up changing it anyway because you're in pain and you just want to be as comfortable as possible. But you might have really strong preferences around how you want to be during labour, whether you want to be lying down, whether you want to be standing up, whether you want to be on a bouncing on a ball most of the time. Usually they'll provide those, basically they're like the workout balls, but you get one in your labour room, usually in the hospital. Whether you want to be on all fours. So it's just a case of any preferences that you might have around positions. And then the next thing is anything that you feel strongly against or that you're not comfortable with. For example, things like intervention. So if you really feel strongly about not wanting the use of forceps or ventouse during the delivery, that's something you can put in your birth plan. At the end of the day, that's going to be down to what happens during your labour. You know, the doctors will do what they need to do to keep you and the baby safe. And also student nurses or midwives, whether or not you want to have them present in the room. They'll usually ask you when you're actually in labour, but you can specify in your birth plan if you feel quite strongly against that. Then there are specific things to do with the actual birth itself and how the baby arrives. For example, so cutting the cord, whether you have a preference if you want yourself or your partner to cut the cord, depending on whether you have a natural birth or have to have a cesarean. You might want to specify, if you do have an emergency cesarean, whether you still want your partner to symbolically cut the cord, because obviously the cord is actually taken out, so it's not still attached. Whether you want the placenta to be delivered naturally or whether you want the injection to help bring the placenta out. Vitamin K injection, whether you want your baby to have a vitamin K injection when it's born, you'll usually be offered one. It's basically to stop blood clots, and I think it prevents a rare blood disease, but they usually offer it to you kind of straight away, so you could have that already in your birth plan so that you're prepared for it. Announcing the sex is another one, so if you don't know what you're having and you would like to have your partner or birthing partner tell you the baby's sex rather than the midwife, that's something that you can put in your birth plan. My midwife said that to me this time around because we don't know what we're having, so she said it's worth, you know, thinking about when you write your birth plan if you'd like your husband to actually be the one to say, oh, it's a girl or a boy, which I thought was quite nice. Another one is skin to skin. You'll normally be offered this straight away when the baby arrives. They'll want to put the baby on your chest, but I have heard people say before that they didn't have the option of skin to skin immediately. They had to ask. several times to have the baby on their chest. And I think this is more likely to happen if you've had a cesarean or something, which I did. So I didn't actually get to hold the baby first, but I made sure that my husband went and got to hold her because I couldn't see what was happening. And I hadn't put anything about that in my birth plan because I wasn't actually expecting to have a cesarean, so it just kind of hadn't really occurred to me. And then there's just the little things. So if you want certain music to be played in the room, you're going to bring something to play your music with. You want a specific type of lighting in the room, you can specify all that kind of thing in your birth plan. You can keep it as vague as you want, or you can go into as much detail as you want. It's really your call, it's up to you, it's your labour and delivery, it's your decision. So I hope that was a bit helpful. I'm just about to write mine, so as I say, it's kind of fresh in my mind at the moment. And there's loads of information, as I mentioned earlier, on the internet, giving you, proper health advice about birth plans and about what to expect from labour and delivery. If this is your first child, I'm sure you've got lots of questions. There's plenty of information you can find. I hope you found this video useful. Please give it a thumbs up and please do subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you again in my next video.